Hey, look at that! I got a new game.
What? You bought it again?
I took a day off and I stood in line early in the morning to get it. Isn't that great?
What's wrong with buying what you want with your own money, Lisa? You have no right to say anything.
I am Lisa Denton, 30 years old. I've been married for 3 years, but no children.
My husband always buys anything he wants without thinking and never looks at the price. It has happened many times since we got married, and I have tried to warn him, but he never changes. Even though after marriage I continue to work and stay with my in-laws at my husband's parents' house.
Last year, in our 2nd year of marriage, my mother-in-law and my husband suggested that we renovate this family house.
I also thought it might be a good idea to make it barrier-free. Thinking ahead to my in-laws, and if we have kids or something in the future, I don't even against to the idea of having a little more room.
But mother-in-law and husband kept a lot of demanding, and once I noticed, the renovate has become quite extensive. The 1-story house would be turned into a 2-story house with separate toilet, bath, and kitchens, in essence, a complete 2-family house. I haven't seen my mother-in-law standing in the kitchen since we got married, and it's obvious that I will be preparing the meal anyway. In that case, I thought 2 kitchens would be useless.
But when I expressed that opinion, my mother-in-law insisted that she just didn't do it because I was there, and that she would do it if we were separated. Besides, in the future, when our children are born and grow up, then get married, she said they are possible to live together. For such a thing that we don't know how many years, and I don't even know what will happen.
It makes me wonder if we need to spend a lot of money right now, and although my father-in-law agreed and said it is not necessary to do that much.
But neither my mother-in-law nor my husband will listen to me if I started to tell them.
I also thought that since this is a house that I will be living in for a long time, would it be a burden to be told what I should have done then, or what I should have done now, or what I should have done later on? In the end, they talk about renovating the house into a 2-family house, just as my mother-in-law had suggested.
They talked about renovating the house into a 2-family house, just as my mother-in-law had suggested.
I'm looking forward to it.
It's good for us that we won't have to live face-to-face with extra stress anymore. Then, my mother-in-law laughed happily. However, shortly after the renovation was completed, my father-in-law fell ill and passed away. Unlike my mother-in-law, my father-in-law was a kind man who always took care of me, so I never expected that he would leave me so suddenly like this. The fact that my husband and mother-in-law didn't seem too sad about it made me feel even more sorry for my father-in-law.
It's so refreshing to see my nagging father pass away.
I agree, because he was a very detailed person.
Even about the house, he always complains that he doesn't want this and doesn't want that.
Hey, Bob and Jenny, we lost our father.
It was too much to say like that.
My father liked and supported you so much, didn't he?
Too bad you lost an ally. With my father-in-law gone, my husband and mother-in-law's attitudes visibly changed.
He's increasingly wasting even more money.
And he didn't like me paying attention to it either.
He became progressively more abusive.
My mother-in-law also said she would do her own housework and cooking, but she never showed any sign of it. However, she always checks the shopping brochures and TV shopping. Too many parcels were delivered to our house after my mother-in-law bought them.
Apparently, they are using my father-in-law's life insurance policy.
In the meantime, my husband said to me,
I appoint you to take care of the mortgage on the house.
What?
I'll pay our living expenses, so it's enough, isn't it?
Well, it's all right, so far.
the loan was under my husband's name. They had ordered this and that, so the loan amount was 25 million yen. The term was set at 10 years because my father-in-law was also supposed to be responsible for the loan repayment. Interest would be charged, and if I had to pay for it all, my entire salary would be used to pay for that loan. However, my father-in-law is dead, so there's nothing I can do about it. Besides, I didn't really argue with them because I thought that since we were living together and living here, it would be the same in the end, whether it came out of my husband's salary or mine. It would be the same in the end, whether it came out of my husband's salary or mine.
But my husband and mother-in-law are people who spend money as soon as they have it.
So they can save enough. And besides money, there are other things to be concerned about. My husband works for a large company. The company I worked for was a subcontractor to my husband's company. I didn't feel it before we got married, but after we got married, I sometimes got the feeling that my husband was looking down on me in every word he said.
When my father-in-law was alive, he used to warn my husband about such things.
But after he passed away, that stopped, and it seems like it's only getting worse. My mother-in-law does even less housework than when my father-in-law was alive, and my husband, of course, does not help. When I work late, they don't even take in the laundry. Of course, he waits for me without preparing dinner.
Hey, our meal's not ready yet?
We're starving. Hurry up!
I just came back.
I told you in advance that I'd be working late today, so why didn't you prepare a few things for us yourselves?
What? You're a wife, and you're going to bother me and my mother?
How could you talk back to us like this? Because of the way our father spoiled her so much, didn't he?
I guess we're going to have to start disciplining them.
What about disciplining?
Now that my father-in-law is gone, my husband and mother-in-law sometimes feel as if they are tag-teaming and harassing me. Frankly, today I wonder why we made a two-family house. My husband is always in the living room on the first floor, and I use the kitchen on the first floor to prepare meals because my mother-in-law is with us.
As it stands now, the first floor is a house for my husband and mother-in-law, and the second floor is a room for me to sleep in.
I wonder if there is such a waste of money. Jenny, when the renovation is done, you said you will do more cooking and other stuff.
You want me to cook and eat alone? What a cold-hearted person you are.
Not like that.
Housework is a wife's job.
That's about the only thing that you'll be useful for anyway. You'll live here for free, and live off of Bob's money, remember? At least do your chores without complaining.
It's not polite and too much to ask for free.
I'm the one paying the mortgage on the house.
Don't disobey my mother every time.
All you have to do is keep quiet and say yes. You are not paying much, but you are so bossy. You know that?
My husband was like this.
So I gradually lost the desire to talk back to him. Then one day her husband used the term deposit. That they had barely saved to make ends meet. When I asked him what he spent it on, he said that he bought a drink for Junior Call You. He said that he bought a drink for Junior Call You, a brand name jacket that he wanted. In my opinion, that is not the kind of money you need to spend to cancel your subscription.
I'm free to spend my hard-earned money any way I want.
Oh yeah, Lisa, do you think you have the right to complain?
Like this, my husband became defiant.
And the mother-in-law joined my husband's side, as a matter of course. I felt like there was no place for me here without my father-in-law. Even after all this time, I realized the magnitude of my father-in-law's presence. My brother and his wife live with my parents in the family house where my parents live. My brother and his wife have 2 children. And when I told them we were renovating our house to a 2-family house, they decided to do the same like us.
It was also just renovated to a 2-generation house last year.
Of course, there is no room for me at my parents' house. Because there is no way they will renovate the house in anticipation of their daughter coming back. Moreover, the renovation was paid for in no small part by my sister-in-law's family. I can't just casually go back to such a place just because I'm divorced, and I don't want to go back either.
But then I would have no place to return to.
That said, I'm not convinced that I'm going to live here all my life, being abused by my husband and mother-in-law.
If you don't like it, get out.
Nothing will bother us even if you leave.
It's true. You are just useless.
You show so proud because you were the one paying the mortgage on a renovating house. But it is not necessarily something to be proud of.
Now that I had been told this much and my father-in-law was gone, I can't even imagine how I would feel.
Even if I had no house to return to, I felt that there was no need to put up with anything in this house. No one on my side. Fortunately, we have no children. I figured that I could survive anywhere if I had to live on my own, so I decided to prepare for that. Once I made up my mind to do so, it became easier. Once I realized that I was going to leave anyway, I was able to just shut up and pass on.
Whatever my mother-in-law or husband said to me.
Then the company entered its busy season, and work became busier, and overtime continued.
As usual, neither my husband nor my mother-in-law do any housework.
But I don't think anything of it, because I don't expect them to anymore. Once I am gone, they will have to do it on their own anyway. But when I work overtime every day and get back late, they don't like that either, and are constantly sarcastic with me.
In a way, I am even impressed that they can come up with so many words that people don't like.
I'm sure it's hard work, day in and day out, even though you don't make a lot of money.
Lisa's company is not a subcontractor of Bob's company after all.
No matter how hard he tries, there's no way she can do it.
Well, the only way she can make money is to make a little bit of money.
Thanks for the earning a little money. Laughs.
Poor Bob having such a bad life.
Well, why don't you just get a divorce?
I'd rather have a younger, prettier wife than this one.
That's my mother. That's a good one. These people do not seem to think I am the one paying a loan at all.
I even wonder if they think the money will come from somewhere and be paid automatically. As I told you before, I'm the one paying the mortgage on the renovation.
Huh? You said again?
So you think we owe you a favor?
It's not like that.
Even if you don't make any money, Bob is enough for me. You know, Bob works for a major company.
If you insist so much, stop paying. Is that okay?
I don't mind at all.
Nothing would make me happier than if you left and I never had to see your face again.
I understand with pleasure.
Huh?
I never thought they would tell me.
Once I decided that all things must be done in haste. As she said, I stopped paying as fast as I could. But originally the loan is in my husband's name.
The loan is in my husband's name.
And I just changed the debit account from my account to his account. So I left the house the following week, leaving a note saying thank you for your help and the completed divorce papers. I also properly prepared my new house for this day. Then that night, my husband called me.
What's the matter with you? You got some nerve?
Do you really think you can get by with a divorce?
I think so.
You've got to be kidding me.
You think I'm gonna bow down and pick you up?
I don't want that at all.
You just only signed the divorce papers and that's it.
Then I'll divorce you as you wish.
If you come crying to me later, I'll never get back together with you again.
That's fine.
Well then, please submit the divorce papers. When I told my parents that I was divorced, they were very worried and said that I should come home, that they would take care of my room, and that my sister-in-law did not need to be hesitated. But I told them that I was fine. Just the thought of having a family member who would say so was reassuring. I was reminded once again that this is what family is all about. Although I was now alone, I decided to think about myself and live peacefully from now on. But just after that, I received the contact from my ex-husband again.
Hey, what's this?
What are you talking about?
I have almost nothing left in my salary. What with all those loan payments?
The payment have to be more than $200,000 per month.
That right, huh? You didn't know?
Because it's a renovation. There can be that many.
The house was originally there. It would be something like 4 or 5 million at most.
I knew you thought that. You didn't even read the paperwork thoughtfully before signing it.
Both my ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law only demanded and were not involved in the payment. They are doing extensive renovating, turning what was a 1-story residence into a 2-story building. We had talked about how the budget was far beyond what we had budgeted, but all he could do was imagine the finished house, and he was out of his mind. Even so, he would have noticed that he was looking down on my salary so much that he probably thought it was no big deal that I could afford to pay him. Could afford to pay him on that salary. Mother-in-law ordered this and that. And without hearing my father-in-law and myself objecting, she put in more and more requests and even built a sunroom. It's not surprising that the amount of money spent is so bulky, since it was so modified that it could almost be called rebuilding rather than renovating. But at that time, my father-in-law said he would help us, and my salary had gone up a lot since we got married. So I thought that if we matched my husband's salary, we could make it work. I never expected that as soon as we renovated, my father-in-law would pass away. And on top of that, I would have to leave home within a year. But I don't care what will happen later. If I pay this kind of money, I won't have any left. If I put it towards utilities and food, I can't afford anything else.
Yes, you have bought a lot of things.
I'm sure you're having a hard time paying your bills over there too. Because of her husband's and my mother-in-law's profligate spending, life was on the edge. When I encouraged him to save money, he only complained that I was not good at making ends meet. Neither my husband nor my mother-in-law were able to calculate their income and expenses at all. But I didn't tell them after I decided to leave already. I thought the rest was up to them.
Why didn't you tell me?
I warned you many times.
You guys didn't listen.
Where do you live? I went to your parents' house, and they said you never came back. Did you go to my parents' house?
Yeah, there's been some misunderstanding.
Your dad and brother have been shitting on me.
Misunderstanding?
I'm only telling the truth.
So where are you?
I found a new place to live.
I'm renting, but it's a 2-bedroom, 1-person, so it's cringy.
You didn't tell me you've been preparing for this for a while.
Finally noticed.
I was so happy when you told me to stop paying and get out. That was terrible. I wondered who in the world would say to whom that was terrible. They never seem to realize how much they have despised people. When I think about it, I am really glad I got divorced. Oh, and I'll be claiming my share of the property from the marriage.
What do you mean by property division?
The house belongs to my father. You have no right to it.
I know that.
He said I could claim back some of the renovation costs I paid. And it sounds like everything you've purchased since you've been married. And everything else you've purchased is subject to property division.
You're kidding.
My ex-husband was about to hang up the phone when I fell silent. Probably because he couldn't find any words to reply to my words.
But he hurriedly stopped me, and, as if out of the blue, started talking about getting back together with me. Then he made the cunning suggestion that I should continue to pay the loan and live as I had in the past. I would never have agreed to such a conversation. He had taken out other loans to buy things, so no matter how much he saved, it would not have been enough. They did not have ears to hear others' opinions, so they had to learn for themselves. I demanded my property, and they eventually had no choice but to sell the house. They went out of their way to contact me and told me that they had to sell the house they had just renovated because I would not come back. And they were very sarcastic about it. Even though the house has been renovated, it is still quite old when it comes to the age of the house.
Moreover, the location is not so good. It is not a house that sells for a high price.
He said his former mother-in-law is totally depressed because the loan will not be paid off after the sale, and the payments will remain. He didn't do any housework, moved to a smaller apartment, and was ranting on the phone about how the house was full of garbage or something. But he left the phone unattended, and when I looked at it, an hour later, it was off. A few months later, I heard from someone at my ex-husband's company that he had been left to a countryside office. The rumor goes that he came to work every day looking disheveled, as if he had not washed or bathed properly, and was demoted due to the displeasure of his clients. 6 months later, my ex-mother-in-law contacted me for a long time. I had blocked my ex-husband's contacts, but he seemed to have forgotten all about my ex-mother-in-law.
Hey Lisa, why don't you come over to my house sometime?
What? I wondered what she had to say all of a sudden.
Half of her pension disappears to pay off her debts. Her ex-husband has gone to the countryside and has not been heard from at all. He is living alone in a small apartment. He has no friends and no one to talk to. He told me how convenient it was that he was lonely and wanted me to come over to his house and prepare a meal for him. Did he really think that I would come running to him after he had called people useless and whatever? You and I are strangers who have nothing to do with each other anymore, so please do not come to me for help. It is none of my business.
With that, I hung up the phone.
Whether you call me cold or not, or whatever you think of me, I have no pity for you at all. For me, the only person in the house that I still consider to have been family is father-in-law. I never received another phone call from them. Again, a few years later, I heard a rumor that my ex-husband had left the company. I have no idea what happened to those two after that.
A few years after my divorce, I remarried someone I met through an acquaintance.
He's a very mild-mannered person and never raises his voice. Of course, there's no outburst. The year after we married, we had a daughter.
My husband is 40 and I am 37, not a young mom and dad, but we are very happy.
I'd like to continue to live hand in hand with my family and get along well.